sun. I'll be lonely without you.
There was a girl, there was a song, and somewhere between the two, you either found the nerve or you spent the next 40 years wishing you had. This is the countdown of the songs that got her, the ones that made her say yes to going steady. Which one was yours? Number 10, Chicago, Color My World, 1971.
Just what you mean.
Number 10, the song that closed 1,000 proms and opened just as many relationships. Nobody planned for this one to matter as much as it did, but something about that looping piano arpeggio and Walter Parazaider's flute, unhurried, pastoral, genuinely tender, created a kind of permission to hold her a little closer before the lights came back on. For a lot of guys in the early 70s, this was the last song of the night. And the last song of the night was the only one that actually counted.
Color my world with hope.
Number 9, Bread, If, 1971.
Be with you tomorrow and
9 is the acoustic letter, written by David Gates in 1971 for the guy who had everything to say and no idea how to start. The genius of it was physical, so quiet, so stripped down, that you had to lean toward each other just to hear it clearly. And leaning in was the whole point. By the time the song ended, the distance between you had closed in a way neither of you had consciously decided on. The words did the asking. All you had to do was not walk away.
would simply fly.
Number 8, Dan Fogelberg, Longer, 1980.
I'll be in love with you.
Belongs to the confession that refused to be small. Dan Fogelberg released Longer in 1980 and framed devotion inside mountains, oceans, and fire. Language too large for ordinary conversation, but exactly right for a slow dance with someone you couldn't imagine leaving. It gave the quiet guy something real to stand behind, a feeling shaped into words that were bigger than he could have found on his own. The girls who heard this one while slow dancing remembered it for a long time. Drop your graduation year in the comments right now, just the year. And if one of these 3 songs was already playing in your head before I finished describing it, say so. Like the video if tonight is already feeling like 1978.
In the winters, you said
Number 7,
showers.
The Bee Gees, How Deep Is Your Love, 1977.
The moment that you wander apart from me, I wanna feel you in my
7 is the one that crossed every boundary, and the guys who used it never quite admitted how well it worked. Barry Gibb's falsetto didn't announce itself. It wrapped around the room like warm air, creating something private inside a crowded gymnasium. A feeling that the song was playing only for the two of you. The question buried in the lyrics, "How deep is your love?" was the kind of question she answered by closing whatever distance still remained between you before either of you said anything at all.
really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of
Number 6, Eric Clapton, Wonderful Tonight, 1977.
She's wondering what clothes to
6 is The Affirmation, the song that understood what she needed to hear before she knew how to ask for it. She spent hours getting ready for that prom, the dress, the hair, the corsage already heavier than expected. And underneath all of it was a quiet question she carried into the gymnasium. Was it worth it? Does anyone see it? Clapton's restrained guitar and warm, unhurried groove answered her directly. The guy who pulled her close during this song had, without knowing the reason why, just done exactly the right thing.
It's time to go home now.
Number 5. Styx. Babe, 1979.
The time is drawing near.
Is the bittersweet goodbye. And if you were a senior in 1980, nothing else on this list hit quite like this one. Dennis DeYoung wrote it as a private gift for his wife and nearly kept it to himself entirely. The subject was leaving, temporary, painful. The world you'd known since freshman year reorganizing into something unrecognizable. For seniors, slow dancing in that gymnasium for the last time, the song was almost unbearably accurate. You weren't only holding her, you were trying to hold on to something that was already, quietly, beginning to leave.
Courage and the strength I need. Please believe.
Number 4. Air Supply, The One That You Love, 1981.
We have the right, you know.
Is the safe choice that turned out to be quietly devastating. Graham Russell and Russell Hitchcock's vocal harmony filled a room the way Good Light does, not demanding attention, just changing the quality of everything inside it. The premise was simple and almost unbearably direct. Here I am, the one that you love, asking for another day. That careful, gentle approach worked because it made her choice feel real. The guys who understood that, who chose this over something louder, usually already knew something about how to treat her. Top 3 right now, and if you already know what's sitting at number 1, put it in the comments before I say it. Tell us her name, your graduation year, and the song that was playing when the lights came on. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because the next countdown hits just as hard.
They are the words to say, the only words I can believe.
Number 3. Foreigner. Waiting for a Girl Like You, 1981.
I've been looking too hard, I've been waiting too long.
Is the synth dream, the song that turned waiting itself into something worth slow dancing to. Lou Gramm's vocal carried a vulnerability that Foreigner's harder material never allowed. And Thomas Dolby's shimmering synthesizer line wrapped the whole thing in something warmer than the band had ever offered before. The yes trigger was the premise. Not love, already won, just waiting. Holding space for her before she'd agreed to occupy it. For the guy who'd been too scared to cross the floor all year, this song was narrating his exact situation in real time.
Mine has been hurt before. This time I wanna be sure.
Number 2. REO Speedwagon. Keep On Loving You, 1981.
And no, I know all about.
Who is the rocker's permission? The song that solved the problem nobody had ever put into words. There was a guy at every prom and a concert tee who wanted to be on that floor, but couldn't quite get there without feeling like he'd surrendered something. Gary Richrath's distorted glissando guitar solo, arriving like a release valve in the middle of a ballad, solved it completely. Rock credibility intact. Arms around her. Kevin Cronin's voice saying the only thing worth saying, I'm going to keep on loving you, and meaning every word.
'Cause it's the only thing I wanna do.
Number 1. Journey. Open Arms, 1982. Song Steve Perry has been stopped on the street about for over 40 years. Always the same words, always the same look. This was my prom song. Jonathan Cain's piano opens alone, searching, exposed, nowhere to hide, before The band slowly fills the air around it. Then Perry's voice starts quietly and climbs toward that operatic high tenor reach that was called, at the time, one of the most beautiful moments in rock balladry. The story it told was reconciliation, not devotion already secured, not a graduation goodbye, a pure, unguarded plea to start again. Arms open, no conditions, no pride left in the way.
There's no one home but you. You're as the fire starts to mellow, burn.
For the guy who'd blown it with her months earlier and spent every day since looking for the right moment, this song walked across that gymnasium floor on his behalf and made the ask he couldn't make himself. The corsage on her shoulder, the floor wax rising from the boards, crepe paper in the rafters catching light from a mirrored ball, Perry's voice reaching for something that felt almost too large for a room that size. Then the lights came on, and for one generation of men, everything that came after was measured against that moment.
Don't say the morning's come, don't say the morning's come.
Tell us her name in the comments, just a first name, your graduation year, and the song that was playing when it mattered most. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.